One thing that has become evident to us, though, is that there's a real power in focusing on those systems or the way that you want to travel.
If you want to be a PGA player, that's great. But you have to understand that the manner of travel to get there is high cost.
There is a quote by Abraham Lincoln where he said, "The best way to predict your future is to create it."
Welcome to the Living Life Our Way podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping you live intentionally. Our goal is to take back control of our lives by living life on our terms. Join us as we work towards living life our way.
Welcome to another episode of the Living Life Our Way podcast. I'm Troy.
And I'm Jeff. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about systems thinking. So we've kind of been wrestling with the difference between systems and goals.
And what we've come up with is for us an analogy of sorts, where we look at life being a journey. For all of us, it starts at birth and it ends at death. However long that journey is and wherever it might take us, we all share that same journey.
Yeah, and on that journey, the waypoints or the stops that we make along the way are our goals. Those are the things that we're kind of working towards along the way.
Yeah, things to see, things to experience. Those are the goals that we set. But there's another element to that journey, and it's how we travel, the manner in which we travel.
Yeah, so that would be kind of our systems. And it's really a balancing act between focusing on the waypoints and how we want to travel.
For sure, because sometimes there's some goals that sound great. I mean, I would love to play in the NBA. I'd love to be a concert pianist. There's a lot of things that sound great, travel around the world. But they have to align with the way we want to live in order for them to make any sense.
Yeah, for sure. So my Uncle Greg, Troy's brother, is a huge world traveler. Him and his family have visited more countries than any other people I know.
And one thing they do when they travel, which is hard for a lot of people to wrap their brain around, is they try to pack everything in that they can, which means traveling with a little bit of discomfort and maybe not as many conveniences as a lot of people would like.
Yeah, we were planning our trip and I asked for their itinerary and Greg sent me a 450-page document that outlined kind of their journey through Greece. So they are meticulous at planning their waypoints and getting to every single thing they can fit in.
And when you look at all the places that they visited, I mean, it's amazing. All the things that they're able to pack in is really, it's very aspirational to me. I'd love to be able to do that, to travel that way. And so when we look at visiting a place, it's very easy for us to say, wow, we'd love to see this and that and everything on the whole list. But what we realize is the type of travel that requires to hit all of those waypoints, to experience all those things or visit all those places, requires some sacrifice. You have to be able to travel in a manner that is compatible with all of those places you'd like to see and all those things you'd like to do.
Absolutely. So another great example of a waypoint and a manner of travel is a marathon. We can train for a marathon and run that one time, but that doesn't necessarily make us a marathon runner.
Well, and so the question really that you have to ask in something like that is, am I looking to become a runner? Or am I looking to just run a marathon?
Absolutely.
And those two things are very, very different. Running a marathon, that's a goal. That's a waypoint. That's something that I may want to do in my life and I put it on the list. And once it's checked off, I may not really want to run anymore after that. In fact, I probably won't. But if I want to become a runner and to consistently run for years, that's just a fundamentally different type of thing.
Absolutely. It requires waking up early, getting out, and really battling the elements to some degree in order to stay in shape and really become a runner, the kind of person who enjoys that manner of travel through life.
And makes that a priority as they're evaluating other things they can spend on their time on. It takes another step too, even if you enjoy running, but you're running 5, 6, 7 miles a day, which is still, that's a lot.
Absolutely.
But if you're only running that amount and you realize in order to run a marathon, I'm going to need to start running 12, 14, 15, 18, 20 miles a day, it may just not be compatible with my enjoyment of running. It might make it less likely that I'll continue to be a runner. So when it's a goal, there is some danger in conflating that goal with a manner of living or the way you want to travel.
Yeah, so as we were looking to get a little more organized in our lives, we found a great tool called Notion, which we absolutely love.
It's great. It works really well, subject to our working really well.
Yes, one person we found on YouTube that does an amazing job of going through all the possible uses of Notion is August Bradley. So we got a little bit ambitious and we followed his entire framework for setting up Notion.
It seemed like a great idea. I mean, the way he presents it is amazing. And it really touched on the goal that we had of becoming organized. But as we dug a little bit deeper,
and tried to start implementing.
And started trying to implement, better said, we realized that there were some inconsistencies with how we wanted to live, or at least at this point.
Yeah, he just has everything mapped out for every day of his life, every minute of his life. And it's amazing. If you can live your life like that, kudos to you. But it's just not something that we currently have the interest in dedicating that kind of time to. So we've figured out how to use Notion more in line with how we live our lives, which is a little bit more relaxed and kind of fly by the seat of our pants.
So as we continue to try to not fly by the seat of our pants quite as much, we're evolving in terms of the systems that we utilize. One thing that has become evident to us, though, is that there's a real power in focusing on those systems or the way that you want to travel and being honest with yourself as far as what does work and what doesn't work, what's worth it and what's not worth it as we build those systems.
Yeah, so as we implement some of those systems, some of those waypoints become a little bit clearer on how much they're worth it to us. That waypoint prioritization becomes a little bit more self-evident.
For sure. A story that I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, about the famous violinist Isaac Stern. Apparently, after a concert, a lady approached him and said something to the effect of, "Hey, I'd give my whole life to be able to play like you." And he said something to the effect of, "Madam, that's what I've done. I'd love to play the violin well. I just don't want to badly enough to make the sacrifices on other things that are more important to me."
Yeah, I think we look at a lot of these people who have accomplished amazing things and we don't realize the cost to them that in terms of manner of travel. We've been watching this new documentary on golf on Netflix called Full Swing.
Wonderful.
And yeah, it's awesome, but it's interesting to watch these PGA Tour players and see how much they have to sacrifice in order to play at the level that they play at.
It's amazing to see what they're able to do, but it's also pretty clear to me that I wouldn't want to make the sacrifices that it requires.
Yeah, being away from your family 50 weeks a year and playing 4 rounds of golf 38 weeks a year. Like, we love golf, but that's just a lot of golf. And so it is kind of that determination of, okay, here's the waypoint. If you want to be a PGA player, that's great. But you have to understand that the manner of travel to get there is high cost.
For sure. One message that we want to leave you with, though, is that there is a real power in defining the manner of travel and creating systems that allow us to do it more efficiently.
And defining waypoints, really dialing in those waypoints as well as the systems is where the power comes from. And as you define those systems and you start to work on developing those systems, you can reevaluate really what is going to work best for you.
And one thing that we did learn as we've talked through this is that comfort is often the biggest obstacle to making progress in developing these systems. Using the example of my brother in his travel, he was able to see all that they've been able to see because they were willing to give up some of their comfort.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with comfort. If you want to do a week-long trip where you just sit at the beach, just recognize that that comes with the sacrifice of being able to see a whole lot of points of interest.
Right. There is a quote by Abraham Lincoln where he said, "The best way to predict your future is to create it." And part of what we're talking about with systems and what we've been evaluating is ways that we can better create the future that we want.
Yeah, and that relates to both the manner of travel, our systems, and the goals or the waypoints.
So we're going to be working on some of the systems and some of the goals that we have in different areas of our lives and trying to be more intentional in the way we approach those.
So you can follow along as we do these experiments. You can see what works and what doesn't for us, and we'd love to get feedback on what works and doesn't for you.
You can see our progress by following us on social media. There's links in the description.
Yeah, we'd love to see you and interact with you there.
Sounds great.
We'll look forward to talking with you next time.